Check, 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 check. We back at it. In the Jar Football Show, number 199. I'm your host, Clark Dupree. Got a good show today. College football heavy show. That's going to be our feature discussion for the day. Obviously, Friday, we come in. We do our thing. We do what we can on a Friday. We don't go into the gym till about 6:30. So you got me here a little bit later. That's okay. Couple things we'll talk about today. Does the SEC championship game even matter anymore? The Alabama fan base, dude. Alabama has got their A-Day tomorrow. Alabama A-Day. Their spring game. People talking about Lane Kiffin over at LSU. Is it CFP or bust this year for Lane Kiffin and LSU? We addressed that a couple days ago. We're going to address it again today on this beautiful Friday that God made, baby. Florida and Arkansas, the rest of the SEC landscape. That's on the docket. Seems like we got a SEC smorgasbord on our show today, which is exactly where I feel most at home, as you can hear in my voice and my accent. Arkansas, are they the best, worst team in the SEC? And much more on today's program. We'll start with the SEC championship game. SEC champion Alabama lost their next playoff game. SEC champion Georgia lost their next playoff game. And then SEC champion Georgia lost their next playoff game again. 3 consecutive SEC champions. Well, there's always an SEC champion in there. That's kind of a ridiculous argument. 3 SEC championships, 0 national championships. Now you got Greg Byrne at Alabama. Chris Del Conte at Texas. Kirby Smart himself openly questioning whether the championship game should even exist. Look, man, I come from a time where the SEC championship meant something. I came from a time where you'd see, what was it one year? Tennessee and LSU. Man, oh man. I still think the SEC look, on paper, does the SEC championship mean a whole hell of a lot anymore? I would say probably not. You know. But it's a nostalgic thing. Kirby Smart talked about it. About how that damn means something, man. You've had games in SEC championship where there's no atmosphere like it. None. It makes me really sad because it doesn't seem like the SEC championship means anything. It does seem like the SEC championship is on its way out because they're going to have to get rid of it to make another weekend for an extra round of college football playoffs, because that's where it seems like we're going with that. 24 teams, just 16 teams, just this disgusting, watered-down version of the college football postseason. Oh, but you could have Cinderellas make runs that wouldn't otherwise be able to make runs. Look, man. The SEC is still the creme de la creme in college football now. A road game to measly South Carolina is a lot more challenging than a road game to old Northwestern. You got 9 of these games every season. The Big Ten's been doing it because their conference, man, they don't even play everybody in their conference. It's too big. You got to break these West Coast teams off. You got to come back to a Pac-12 West Coast kind of situation. It's not sustainable for Southern Cal to pack up their equipment team. They got to drive, by the way. You can't fly all them damn shoulder pads and helmets. They got to drive from L.A. to wherever the hell in New Jersey Rutgers is. And then come back and do it again. So you got to take USC, you got to take Oregon, you got to take UCLA, and a couple of those other West Coast Big Ten teams, and break them off. Put them in a conference with other West Coast teams. Bring back the Pac, whatever. You know, it doesn't make sense. The real question is, does it help or hurt to play the SEC championship game? The physical toll argument is real. Georgia 2 years ago lost their quarterback in the championship game and then had to play Notre Dame with Gunnar Stockton, who was not ready at that point in time. Alabama had both starting wide receivers go down and come back with none of them. This year, DeBoer's team took a 21-point loss in Atlanta, limped into the Rose Bowl, and got blown out by Indiana. That was a game I attended. I thought, coming down the stretch in the SEC championship game, that if Alabama lost by more than 2 possessions to Georgia, they deserved to not be invited to the college football playoff. I was proven wrong temporarily when the committee chose to overlook that SEC championship game. And I was once again vindicated when Alabama was blown the hell out by Indiana, a game that I drove 4.5 hours to go see because somehow I was psyoped into thinking that Kalen DeBoer has got some semblance of a program in Alabama right now. He doesn't. Not yet. Now, the talk of the town with Alabama fans is what's going to happen the next 2 years with Kalen DeBoer. A lot of Alabama folks are calling on Alabama fans to not worry about the next season, to give him 2 years to get it figured out. Reminds me a whole hell of a lot of Kentucky basketball. Reminds me a whole hell of a lot where a once respected program is in hot water and they feel like they can't do anything about it. It was a sorry scene to watch Alabama play like they did in the Rose Bowl against Indiana. Part of why I found that game to be so intriguing that I bought a ticket and got in my car was I still had this vision of the Alabama of old. I still thought that this was an intriguing matchup because you have the new blood versus the blue blood. And boy, was I wrong. I bet my money on Alabama. I tried to pay for my trip. And we knew who the victor of that game was after the first quarter. It was really sad. I remember listening to Alabama fans call into Paul Feinbaum the next day, and it was some of the most entertaining shit that I've ever heard. The reality is, maybe the better question isn't whether we need to play the SEC championship game. Maybe the better question is it a negative to play the SEC championship game? Does it take too much out? Does it affect each participating program's propensity to show up and play well in the assumingly damn, I had a well-worded thing there. That's what happens when you try to use big words. All this fluff, all this bullshit, baby. Here's my dog. Come here, buddy. Come here, buddy. Come on up, buddy. Kid knows when the camera's on. Fans of the show know. When a dog walks in here, he'll never get up on camera. Very rare. So, here's a business reality for ESPN. The SEC championship game is worth $50 to $75 million. You don't walk away from that without a structure to replace it. Some people are suggesting there's no title game. The top 4 SEC teams are probably in a 16-team playoff anyway. So you run a 5 and 8 and 6 versus 7 playoff weekend. Gives television volume, gives teams a chance to play their way in, and it keeps the revenue alive. There's a lot of creative ways to go about this. Obviously, the last thing we expect the NCAA or its constituents to be is creative. So, when you look at the original Steve Spurrier era, when winning the SEC championship meant something because it was the automatic path to the national title, that era is over. 2026, winning the SEC might actively hurt you going into January. How do you sell that to anyone? Look, if we're clinging on to the SEC championship game because of nostalgia, and it pains me to say this, but we need to nix it. Now, if we nixed the SEC championship in favor of another round of college football playoff games, which would imply that we're now in a 16-team playoff or, God forbid, a 24-team playoff, I'm against nixing the SEC championship. ESPN will fight tooth and nail for their money, you know. So we have that to look at. I don't know, man. I'd be curious to hear what y'all think about what size you think the playoffs should be. I think 16 is too much, man. Maybe it's just right. I mean, God forbid 24. 24 would just be terrible. 12 seemed just right. Look, like, doesn't matter how big the field gets. You got 68 teams in the NCAA tournament in basketball. You still got your bubble teams. You still got your programs that believe they should get in or whatever, and they don't. So, y'all think that bubble conversation is going to go away if we expand the playoff to 24 teams? You're snoozing on the job. You know what I mean? It's just nostalgia is the main fuel for me around having the SEC championship. It's a source of pride. It's a event that just puts our Southern pride on display for the whole world to see. And for the last 2-3 decades, the whole world has been watching the SEC championship because the SEC is the SEC. It's the top level of college football. But there's a lot of change going on in college football. As much change that's occurred in college football, I got half a mind to think that in 5 years, that in 10 years, it'll be completely unrecognizable from what college football is in this moment. I think it's a decent reflection of where America's at right now, American society. College football is the cultural fabric of a lot of communities in America today, even deeper than a lot of NFL fan bases and cultures in the bigger cities. These teams are everything to these folks in Oxford, Mississippi. These teams are everything to folks in Gainesville, Florida, or Columbia, South Carolina, or Athens, Georgia, or Knoxville, Tennessee. So I won't be fully a fan of the SEC championship going away, but if it's for good reason, a lot of times it's not, but if it's for good reason, then it's for good reason. All right, what do we have here about Georgia? I know we titled the episode on LSU. We'll get to LSU. Let's check in on Georgia here. Last year was a full rebuild. Nobody wanted to call a rebuild for Georgia. They lost 17 players in the NFL. They lost their starting quarterback to the Miami Hurricanes. 4 new offensive linemen. Still won the SEC championship. Some people say that it's really miraculous that Georgia was able to repeat as SEC champs, if that even means anything anymore. Now heading into 2026, 15 returning starters. Gunnar Stockton is in year 2 as a starting quarterback. Some people are saying that Georgia might have the best defense in SEC this year. And the transfers that have Georgia fans excited, Khalil Barnes coming over from Clemson, 3-year starter, freshman All-American, and Isaiah Canyon from Georgia Tech. That's a cold move, going from Georgia Tech to Georgia. Kirby's actual problem is SEC championship banners. Some people are saying, fine. Winning the SEC championship and losing the Sugar Bowl doesn't get you very far in the national conversation. Not anymore. Kirby has not won a playoff game in 2 years. Both years, they've had a bye and immediately advanced to the quarterfinal where they got beat. They got beat by Notre Dame the year before last, and then this year they got beat by Ole Miss in the Sugar Bowl, which, let's be real, guys, I don't know why Ole Miss doesn't get more credit in this whole Georgia conversation. You have this conversation about Georgia. Well, they haven't won a playoff game in 2 years. They won the SEC championship the last 2 years, haven't won a playoff game. They got a bye in the playoff each year, and they end up in the quarterfinals. This past season, they run into an Ole Miss team in the quarterfinals, the Sugar Bowl in New Orleans. I was sitting in my bed in a hotel room in Los Angeles, just come back from the Rose Bowl, watching this Ole Miss Georgia Sugar Bowl game. And let me tell you, I couldn't take my eyes off of how Ole Miss's defensive line played that game. They were absolutely hooping. Ole Miss played their ass off, and they had a spiritual fuel as a team that you can't replicate with the Kiffin situation. So as much as Georgia fans don't want to hear this, you ran into a buzzsaw. You ran into a program that was full of piss and vinegar because their coach had just left them high and dry. You had a program that played the game of their life that game. I mean, go back. Watch the Ole Miss Georgia game, Sugar Bowl from last year. Ole Miss was hooping. There wasn't a team in America that would have beat Ole Miss in that Sugar Bowl this past year. There was not a team in America. Indiana wouldn't have beat them in that Sugar Bowl game. Nobody would have beat them that night. The thing about energy like that pissed off energy that Ole Miss had going into that game, that was the first game since Kiffin had left. And so can you really replicate that game in, game out for an entire playoff run? I think that'd be really hard to sustain that type of piss and vinegar, that level of aggression that Ole Miss had in that game against Georgia. I'm telling you, I don't think there was a team in America that would have beat Ole Miss on that night in the Sugar Bowl. If it was Indiana, if it happened to have been Indiana, we would have had a different national champion. I'm telling you guys. I don't know who it would have been. So I give Georgia a bit of slack around their early, some people call it early exit from the playoff. The Notre Dame thing, they kind of get a pass too because their quarterback that they played with all year wasn't in that game. He got hurt in the SEC title game. So I think you got to give Georgia a pass. I think Kirby is the best coach in college football today. I think he's the best guy to run a program in this era of college football. What I mean by that is he understands the current landscape and how to do things different, but he also takes a traditional approach to developing players. Okay? On the other side of that, Kiffin. Big expectations at LSU. This is the discussion of the day here. Kiffin is the straw that stirs the drink. He moves the needle the way no other coach in America does right now. That's from John Talty. The $42 million question. LSU spent approximately $42 million on the roster after buying out Brian Kelly for $54 million. Louisiana Governor Jeff Landry gave an interview today defending the Kiffin hiring and taking credit for it. Getting some followers on Kick today. Appreciate you guys. He also took credit for hiring Will Wade. The governor of Louisiana is effectively the athletic director at LSU. This is what I'm talking about, guys. Talk about how football in the South plays a role in the cultural fabric. Look no further than the state of Louisiana. Jeff Landry is effectively the LSU athletic director. And you got big old Jeff Landry. He come out there, he talking like this. We gonna find us a football coach now. We're a big, strong Cajun man down there in Louisiana. We gonna find us a football coach now. We gonna poach us a football coach now. That was fun. So here's what Kiffin's actually doing well. Assembling a roster, no debate. Social media trolling at a Hall of Fame level. Tweeted at Ole Miss Pete Golding at 5:15 a.m. this week, comparing golf swings. Taking attention away from the pressure on his team through humor and chaos. And fixing the one thing LSU genuinely broke under Kelly. He does something LSU struggled with last year, pile up yards and score points. The real pressure for LSU is with that investment level, it's playoff or bust. Not good season, playoff. And then win at least one game in the playoff. I don't even know if LSU fans will be happy there. The expectations are at another level in year one. And you can hear Kiffin kind of trying to taper that off when he's speaking to the press. He said, he talks about how it takes time to build a football program. Takes time to get everybody on the same page with how we're doing things. Now, is all this pressure self-induced? Probably to a degree. It seems like Kiffin's trying to walk that back some in his press conferences. Those fans expect to win with Lane Kiffin. They're spending a lot of money. There's a lot of chicken fingers behind this deal. We talk about Todd Graves, the CEO of Raising Cane's, being the guy that bankrolls this whole operation. They got Clemson week 1. I'm thinking about going down to Baton Rouge for that one because LSU never opens week 1 at home in Baton Rouge. Normally they go somewhere else, neutral site game. LSU plays a lot of neutral site games to open the season. And then they got Ole Miss on September 19th in Oxford. Trying to go to both of those. It's going to be a task, but it's the most emotionally charged game on the calendar. We've talked about that game we'll continue to talk about that game all the way up until it happens. Damn. So, can Kiffin hold this thing together when it's hard? He's proven himself as an offensive mind. But LSU needs a manager more than a coordinator right now. He's never been at a place where the pressure and the expectation coexist at this level without an escape hatch. This year, there is no escape hatch. I'm telling you guys, I don't think it's going to happen. But if LSU loses more than 3 games, if LSU doesn't win a game in the playoffs, if they don't make the playoffs, we might be talking about Kiffin being back at square one pre-Ole Miss days. Somebody will hire him. I mean, maybe that might be a little too far saying that. That might be a little bit too severe. I mean, he proved himself at Ole Miss. The thing with Ole Miss is that after Lane Kiffin had spent some time at Florida Atlantic University coaching the Owls, Ole Miss's program was in a spot that they really had nothing to lose, everything to gain. They take a chance. They hired Lane. And it was a beautiful thing. I said it so many times on the show here that, and I love Ole Miss, so that's partially why I would guess, but Lane could do everything at Ole Miss that he could do anywhere else in the country in this modern era of college football. I saw no reason for Lane Kiffin to leave Ole Miss. A lot of folks saw no reason for old Kiffin to leave Ole Miss, especially as Ole Miss damn near made a national championship run. They were the last remaining program in the playoff out of the SEC this year. Kiffin didn't see it that way. There's a bigger recruiting pool. There's, I guess, more money, bigger alumni base. I don't know, though. You know, it's one of those things, man. We'll see. Everybody's saying John Summerall's different down there at Florida. Kentucky sleeping at the wheel, not hiring him. Absolutely ridiculous. Today's an SEC roundup if you didn't catch on already. People are buffing up Will Stein over Kentucky. Kentucky's going to continue to be mediocre at every sport until Mitch Barnhart gets his grimy hands out of the equation. Arkansas, are they the best, worst team in SEC? Consistently competitive, consistently losing the close games. Ryan Silverfield inherits the job. Good enough coach, kept Memphis at great heights, wins close games. It's really what Sam Pittman couldn't do with his jugs. You got to retain coordinators over at Arkansas. Look, that's about all I got for you guys today. Good little 30-minute episode. Feels like we only been here for 10 minutes. I'm going to go down to training now. I got a competition tomorrow. We're going to vlog the thing and see where we end up. You know, we're going to bring home a gold medal for the second time, but you guys will be able to see that probably Sunday or Monday, depending on how the edit goes for me. So if you hate football but you love combat sports, that's reason enough to subscribe to the channel. This is In the Jar Football Program, where we go live, talk about the most recent football happenings in the land, particularly college football, SEC football, professional football, high school football. If there's something to talk about, middle school football, there's something to talk about. You got UFC 327 coming up this weekend as well. Yuri Prochazka going to make the walk for the main event. And, we got a whole lot of stuff going on, man. I'm going back to Kentucky. Should be going back to Kentucky here in 2 weeks for work for a week. We'll do the podcast from there just like we did over Christmas. And a whole hell of a lot of other stuff going on, man. I think that's about it. But to me, it's a lot of stuff. I'm going to head down to the gym for some kimono training tonight. Take it easy. Get in bed at a good time. And I might pop up and do some sensory deprivation therapy tomorrow before my matches. You guys ever done this shit? It's you lay in a tank of really salty water, so salty that you lay there and float. You put earplugs in your ears and you just lay there floating in water for an hour. A lot of people say it's a psychedelic experience because you face your thoughts and feelings in a way that you can't in normal life because you're deprived of every sense, every feeling. You're just floating in water. You can't hear anything, really. And I'll tell you what, man, I went down there. I had done it before a couple years ago, but it had been a long time since I had done sensory deprivation session. I went down there 2 weeks ago and did one. And then I played golf later that day, and let me tell you, the focus I had, the calmness I had, it was like I had sat and meditated for 2 hours that day. It was tremendous. So I think I might go and float a little bit before my match tomorrow. But like I said, if you hate football but you love combat sports, we do every time I compete in jiu-jitsu, the pace I'm at, it's once every 3 months. We vlog it and we put it on the channel, so that's reason enough to hit subscribe. But that's only if you're on YouTube. If you're watching Kick, Twitch, Twitter, make sure you follow me on there too, but it's going to be just a football show for now on there. So I'm going to get going, guys. Really appreciate everybody. Nice little 30-minute John. Make sure you subscribe. Make sure you follow. We're the fastest growing football channel in the land. Love ball. Love talking about ball. So I got this rainbow all over me. Kind of feel a bit homosexual, if you know what I mean. That's the light shining in, baby. Hopefully it looks cool. If it doesn't, get used to it. Get over it. And we'll holler at you guys Monday. Hopefully the vlog will be out before we go live Monday, but it might not be. So if it isn't, I'll let you guys know how I did. Love you guys. Appreciate you guys. All the fans of the show. Everybody watching from around the world. Good night. Take care. And bye-bye.